backdrop to the start of the Toyota Dealer Cape Rally, there was a relaxed atmosphere in the pre-start holding area. 59 cars had entered round 2 of the Sasol South African Rally Championship, an event that was expected to produce extremely fast-paced action over the close on 200 kilometers of special stages. Having had a poor start to the season, the BP Volkswagen team was under pressure to perform.
Andre, you got a bit of a clobbering in Natal, but I take it you've done some work in the meantime.
Well, second place, I wouldn't agree with you, Stab. That's a clobbering. But I think the shock absorber dilemma that we had has gone away. In the last 2 days, we had the opportunity to subsequently test and to try and find a solution. The shocks are completely new, so you have to drive it out, and of course 2 days is maybe not enough time. Obviously, we'd like to have had more time. So after this event, we have the whole of April, I would imagine, to be able to test the range of springs that we've got and the shock absorber settings.
So to some extent this event will be part of your test session, really?
I think so. I think it's dangerous always to use the rallies as test sessions, but unfortunately the time between the last rally and this rally was ridiculously tight, 3 weeks, and then to design and manufacture in Europe and get them here in time, that was a bit tight. I think 6 weeks between events would suit us better, and in fact suit everybody better.
Richard Bem and Grant Sinclair in the Powerban Mitsubishi Lancer. Bem and Sinclair had previously competed nationally with a good turn of speed in a Class N2 Toyota Corolla.
Richard, it's nice to see you in a competitive car, but it's quite a big step up from where you were.
Yeah, so quite a big jump, almost twice the amount of power now, four-wheel drive. So we're going to take it as it comes. We're not going to try and go too quickly, too fast. We're going to learn the ropes and see what happens.
Guy Hodgson were first on the road in their Class A8 BP Volkswagen Golf. The rally offered crews less than 43 kilometers of special stage driving on day 1, with the opening stage just 0.99 of a kilometer run in the car park of the Northlink College. With Keane being a local Cape Townian and a competitor in regional events, he started the event as one of the favourites thanks to his local knowledge. Having retired from the first event of the season, he would need a good result in this one to mark himself as a serious championship contender. A solid start just 3 seconds off the stage winner's time kept him happy. Starting the event as the clear favourites for victory were Serge Damso and Robert Paisley in the Class A8 Castrol Toyota Run X. Somerset West-based Damso is virtually unbeatable in Cape events as he knows the road conditions so well, while the new Run X showed itself to be the class of the field in the opening round of the championship in KwaZulu-Natal. Damso is chasing his 10th national championship title this season as he closes in on Cyril van der Merwe's all-time record of 11 titles. He's also narrowing the gap in rally wins with 63 to his name, just 3 behind Supervan's record of 66. Quickest time on this stage was a perfect start to the event for the Toyota crew. Jannie Habich was receiving final instructions from navigator Douglas Judd before the start. The BP Volkswagen crew also experienced a tough opening event in Natal, but managed to salvage a hard-earned second place. Natalian Habich won the opening event last year, but the Golf was outclassed by the Toyota earlier this month. The Volkswagen crew had worked long hours to improve the situation between events, and Habich and Judd were hopeful of being able to take the fight to Damso and his crew. They finished the stage just 2 seconds down on Damso. Johnny Gemmell and Greg Godrich were the unluckiest pair in rallying last year, failing to score a point all season in their Class N4 L&J Plant Hire Subaru Impreza. They led every event they contested, but mechanical maladies scuppered their chances in almost every rally. When they did eventually manage to finish the final event of the year, they were excluded for a minor technical infringement. Their season started on a more positive note, with the crew finishing 3rd in the opening rally. They were in contention for a second place finish until near the end when they hit a tree, severely damaging the car. With just 3 weeks between events, they were forced to pull out Gemmell's old Subaru for this event, as the damaged one could not be repaired in time. problematic start to the season in KwaZulu-Natal, Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermeulen were hoping for an easier run in their ex-Damso Class A8 Team Total Toyota Run X. The Natal event proved to be a character-building exercise for the crew, as all manner of problems struck the Run X, leaving it languishing down in 10th place at the overnight halt. However, a strong fight back on day 2 saw the Team Total pair take 5th overall. Having moved up from Class A7 to A8 this season, Lawrence's performances are being closely watched by observers. He had made some significant changes to the car since the last event, but still felt that there was more to come from the Run X. A really good start saw him just a second slower than Damso on this opening test. Schalk Burger and Vito Bonafide went into the event confident of a good result in their Class N4 Bridgestone Subaru SA Impreza. The pair had managed a 4th overall and 2nd in class in the Natal Rally, despite the car only being put together on the day before the event. Burger imported the Impreza N9 from the UK, but a delay in the shipping saw it offloaded at the docks in the early hours of the Thursday morning before the event. The team pulled out all the stops to assemble it in time for scrutineering, which they managed to do, but Burger was not able to drive the car prior to the event. Now, with only one rally under his belt in the new car, Burger was bullish of going after not only a class win, but also the overall win. The ProDrive built car offers a huge leap in performance over Burger's previous Impreza, an advantage that he was confident of utilizing to its full effect. The big heavy four-wheel drive cars don't usually take to these tight and twisty stages, but Burger was quick off the mark, setting an equal time to Lawrence, just 1 second off the winner's time. Kali van der Merwe and Gideon Trollop have put in some strong performances in their Class N4 mobile Subaru Impreza over the past year, and were expected to run comfortably in the top 10 throughout the rally. Unfortunately, the Subaru did not take to this twisty stage very well and broke a differential near the finish, bringing their event to a premature end. The wheat fields near Wellington were dry and dusty, making the dust a potential problem for competitors. Being first on the road was considered a disadvantage, as the first few cars would sweep the loose surface away for the following cars. There was not much Keenan Hutchin could do about the conditions though, and just had to drive as fast as possible on the 22-kilometer first gravel stage. Equal second fastest was a good effort under the circumstances. A comprehensive test session before the start of the season had put Damso and Paisley in the pound seats to retain their title. The Toyota team had completed over 200 kilometers of testing with their newly built Run X, allowing them to iron out all the bugs that normally affect newly built cars. With the Run X so well sorted, Damso could simply concentrate on driving fast, a task he finds rather easy to do. There has been a lot of talk about when he might call it quits after a long and distinguished career, but while he's still winning rallies and is so close to breaking the all-time win records, he has no inclination to give it up at all. All of Damso's successes has come behind the wheel of a Toyota, for whom he's driven since 1986, and the marque also wants to add to its 12 manufacturers' titles. It dominated in 2003, scoring almost double the points of its closest rival, as it swept the board with no less than 15 titles. Damso added another stage win by 1 second to make it a perfect start to the event. Habib and Judd have 13 seasons of competition as teammates behind them, making them one of the longest pairings in rally history. They're also one of the most successful pairings with 9 national and numerous class and regional titles behind them. Equal second fastest on this stage left them well positioned, just 3 seconds adrift of leader Damso. Gemmell entered the event hoping for a repeat of his 2001 Cape Rally win, but it was not to be. His misfortune had struck again, and he was cruising through the stage with a failing engine. It would expire before the completion of the stage, bringing up yet another retirement. In almost every event last year, Lawrence and Vermeulen were close, if not on the pace of the leaders. Their performances had everyone talking and even led to the Class A7 cars being detuned for this season, as they were considered too much of a threat to the Class A8 entries. They were in contention for the overall title for most of the season, only losing out in the last event of the year. It led to Team Total deciding to back them in the Class A8 Run X for this year. The ex-Damso Runix was Toyota Motorsport's guinea pig development car last year, as they learned valuable lessons to incorporate into this year's entry. As such, Lawrence, who prepares his own car, has made significant changes to the car since he took delivery. He hopes to make a few more before the next event too, in an effort to make it even more competitive and to get it right to his liking. Here, enjoy him at work in the cockpit and watch for the scantry guard for the marker arrow. It's almost like being there. Despite not being totally comfortable with the car, he was 5th fastest on this stage. Burger was also quickly into the groove with his Impreza and would set equal second fastest stage time, matching Keen and Habeck's times. It moved him into second overall, just 2 seconds behind Damso. Fernando Rueda and Pierre Aries also came away from the opening round with 0 points after their Class N4 Motion Motorsport Mitsubishi Lancer ingested water early in the event and would go no further. Upon inspection back at the workshop, it was discovered that the engine had suffered internal damage and it had to be rebuilt. Having nearly won this event a few years back and with a fresh motor, they were confident of taking the fight to Gemmel and Burger. The Mitsubishi Evo 7 is an impressive car and was arguably the best car in the field last year. But with the arrival of Burger's new car, that mantle has arguably passed to the Subaru. The Spaniard battled on the stage and was 10 seconds off the Subaru's pace. He was only 7th fastest through the stage. JP Damso and Cobus Frey were also expected to do well in their Class A7 team total Toyota Corolla, as Damso Jr. also knows the local road conditions very well. A quick time put him at the head of the class and just 1 second behind Rueda. After a torrid 2003, Hergen Fecken and Dave Lufkovic and the Class A7 BP Volkswagen Playa had made a solid start to the season in Natal and were hoping to build on that in the Cape. A misfire hampered their effort in this stage, but it was quickly cured at the next service. The Class A8 Bosch Top Car BMW of Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen suffered a severe misfire in the opening event. It was thought that the problem had been traced to a faulty engine management system control unit, but although a new unit improved the problem, the misfire was still in evidence. More searching would have to be done to find the fault, but nevertheless Blackman was still putting in good times and running in the top 10. Ex-regional rallyist Stefan van Dijk and Mark Pim were contesting their second event in the Revolution Technology House of Subaru Impreza. A good start saw them pip Rueda to 6th fastest stage time. Bem and Sinclair were familiarizing themselves with their new mount and driving sensibly by not trying to be too fast. The Mitsubishi has good pedigree, being the car that Rueda used to win the African Rally Championship last season. Andy Haig-Smith, though, was out after just 1 stage.
What's the problem? Gearbox. Gone. Yes. On the corner.
The gearbox had destroyed itself in the Corolla, but Gugu Zulu and Mike Burrows were still going strongly in the Class A5 Sassel Volkswagen City Golf. Keen was finding his Golf's handling much improved from the first event. He was still having to sweep the road for the field, but was confident that a good result was in the offing and that the Volkswagen team would be able to compete with Toyota this season. This is Keen's 3rd season with the Works Volkswagen squad, having previously driven for the Daewoo, Hyundai and Ford factory teams. The relationship with Hodgson also stretches back a number of years, as they were paired at both Ford and Daewoo, although there have been breaks in their relationship in between. They were 3rd fastest on this stage. Damso was taking no chances and was noticeably cautious in the stage, with a wrong tyre choice playing a role in his performance. He settled for the 6th fastest time, some 36 seconds off the stage winner's time. He knew that there was a long way to go on day 2 and was not willing to put his entire event at risk by pushing too hard on wrong tyres so early in the event. The 17.6 kilometer stage run in the hills on the outskirts of Stellenbosch was a tight point and squirt affair, and any mistake would have meant a trip into the trees or down a steep embankment. An indication of its tightness was the fact that it took 5 minutes longer to complete than stage 2, which was 4.5 kilometers longer. Habich and Judd also took no chances, but were markedly quicker than the Toyota. Even when easing off, Habich's style is still entertaining to watch as he sets the car up for corners. They were second fastest on the stage, beating teammates Kuhn and Hodgson by just 1 second. It was good enough to move them into second overall. Lawrence was reveling in the fact that he had suffered no punctures or gremlins this far and could simply concentrate on getting the maximum out of the car. He was 5th fastest on the stage, 1 second quicker than the similar car of Damso.
Enzo, it's only 2 dirt stages after all the driving around. What were they like?
They're pretty fast, Sorrel, and loose, you know, on the top. It was difficult to make a tyre choice. But I think most of the drivers, everyone's just waiting for tomorrow. You know, the tarmac stage is very short, and the 2 gravel stages, the one in Stellenbosch now is incredibly tight. First, second gear all the time, lots of places to make a mistake. And I think we all have the strategy to survive today, really, and start the race tomorrow.
So nothing exciting, and same type of roads as last year. In fact, some of the very same stages.
Yeah, very similar. Some of the stuff actually I could remember. But as I say, the very fast stage in Marsbury. You know, we were in 5th gear and just running top end. And but our car's feeling a bit better from Natal. We've done a bit of testing, and it's slightly better at speed.
Looks like there's a bit more traction as well.
Yeah, a bit more traction, definitely gone forward a little bit. But I think tomorrow we'll be able to judge where we are in the field. Some of these N4 cars have taken some time out of us today. We've got a few surprises coming tonight with the scoreboard.
As predicted by Enzo, there were a few surprises in store. They did not come from the Group N cars in general though, but rather from one in particular, that of Burger and Bonafide. It appeared as if they'd not heard of the cautious approach, as they took 17 seconds from the rest of the field, on a stage that theoretically should not suit the big and cumbersome 4-wheel drive cars. It gave them a handy 18-second lead over Habich. Burger, though, felt that he was not overextending himself, the car's traction and handling being the all-important element in their performance. Rueda also found the traction of his Lancer a help, but he could still only manage the 4th fastest time, some 32 seconds off Burger's pace. He felt that the newly rebuilt engine was not producing the power that it had done previously. Damso Jr. was still enjoying his event, outpacing great rival Fecken in the Golf. With Lawrence having moved to Class A8, all eyes are now on the battle between these 2 drivers. Fecken recently became a father for the first time, but it has not slowed him up at all. He'd lost 25 seconds to his rival, but was confident of closing the gap on day 2. The top car BMW was still overweight and does not have a sequential gearbox, as is the case with the front-running Class A8 cars, but Blackman was pushing on as hard as he could to keep himself in the top 10. Diamond dealer Visser Du Plessis and Tillo van Westerhagen were running just outside the top 10 in their Metmeister Outsurance Subaru Impreza. They were suffering with electronic problems that left the Subaru with either 2-wheel drive or full center differential lock, making life rather awkward for the driver. Slid off the road and out of the opening event, Charles Wilkin and Robin Houghton could not afford to have another scoreless event in their Class N3 Castrol Toyota Run X. A great battle was expected with new class rivals Rodney Versaghi and Carolyn Swan in a similar Run X. Reigning Class A6 champion Craig Trott and new navigator John Costa finished at the tail of the field in the Tour Natal after going off the road. No such bad luck so far as they led their class in their team total Toyota Corolla. Eastern Cape crew Adrian Karth and Rikus Fourie were running strongly and held third in Class A7 in their Net Connect GMP Motorsport Volkswagen player. Capetonian Bem was still playing it carefully, but even so, he was quicker than most of the regular Class N4 runners. Zulu had teamed up with Burrows for this event and was heading Class A5. Expected rivals Alan Worms and Willie Fourie had retired after crashing their Toyota Taz in Stage 2. Stage 4 took competitors back into town to the Brackenfell Pick and Pay. It was the first of two car park stages to end the day off with. With the stage delayed, it gave competitors time to walk the course to make sure of the exact route. Our stages, as they present no real driving challenge, but can quickly ruin or even end an event if a pavement is struck. The fans love them though, as they can get really close to the action. Competitors, and we're sure the fans too, would prefer a proper dirt super special type stage though, which would put two cars head to head on a specially constructed gravel circuit. Keane was 3 seconds off the pace in this test. In the final stage of the day, which was a repeat of the first stage at the Northlink College, he was once again 3 seconds off the pace, but was pleased to be in on an expected third place on the road for day 2. Although he also dislikes these stages, Damso is generally very quick through these tests, probably stemming from his extensive track racing experience. He would finish just 1 second off the pace in both of the closing stages. Lawrence is another who has always performed exceptionally well in the car parks, regularly winning over faster machinery. He was not on top form on the day though, finishing 2 and 1 second behind the stage winners. Note how confusing it is to pick the course between the bunting and the store bales. Let's join Lawrence and Vermeulen in car as they race to the finish line in this stage. The Toyota fans were ecstatic with his performance. Bidger normally switches his car to two-wheel drive in between stages to prolong the life of the differentials, but he forgot to revert it to four-wheel drive for the stage. The result was all the drive being fed through the rear wheels, allowing him to slide the car, much to the fans' delight. These stages generally do not suit the big four-wheel drive cars, but Bidger manhandled the car around to the fastest stage time. However, the car would break a drive shaft in the next stage, costing him 17 seconds. had put him in the equal lead of the rally, but he took 1 second of lateness to put him into a planned third on the road for day 2. Habich also checked in a second late to drop him to third, elevating Keen to an unexpected and unwanted first on the road for the second day. The Bosch BMW is always a crowd favourite thanks to its rear-wheel drive sideways action, and Blackman knows how to turn it on for the fans. He was not the quickest, but was arguably the most spectacular. He finished the day in 10th place. Duplessis ran this stage in two-wheel drive but gave the fans a fright as his foot slipped off the brake pedal for a split second, forcing him to take a second shot at it and lock up the front wheels. It highlighted just how dangerous these stages indeed can be. Overnight leaders Keen and Hodgson were surprised to find themselves heading the timesheets, while Damso was an uncharacteristic fourth, but happy. Van Dijk produced a good drive for 7th, while Bem was equally impressive in 9th in his first outing in the Mitsubishi. Controversially missing from the leaderboard was Damso Jr., who was excluded from 8th for using the wrong size tyres in the car.
We've had it at the front for quite a while.
Yeah, essentially there were only 2 stages, 2 dirt stages, the rest was this Mickey Mouse Town stuff. But after 2 stages, 31 seconds, it's got the makings of a hell of a die, so I think everybody's going to be flat out. Serge will want to move up. Enzo's leading, which is probably not a nice place for him to be because he's got nobody's times, but they got his. And like I said, everybody's going to go flat out. Some nice stages today, fast, and the water splash, famous water splash is there, so that's cost a few cars in the past. I think it's going to be a very exciting day, and I wouldn't bet against Damso anyway.
The rally moved to the Greater Caledon area for day 2, being first on the road. Keen had no option but to go flat out from the word go. He was still satisfied with the handling of the Golf following the changes made since the last event and felt that he could push the car fast enough to win. The wheat fields are notorious for the yumps that run through the farmyards. Some are quite mild while others are quite severe. The Golf hit one particularly hard, launching it into the air and coming down nose first. As the rear end landed, it broke the left rear wheel clean off, pitching the car sideways and almost into a roll. Unfortunately, the impact shut down our camera, but Keen did well to keep it on the road. He managed to drive the car out of the stage and to service on 3 wheels. Burger was pushing hard, using all of the road and more in places. The new ProDrive Subaru had given him a new confidence behind the wheel, and he was highlighting once again that he's going to be a serious threat to the Class A8 cars during the course of the season. However, Keen's incident affected Burger's stage as the dust thrown up by the ailing car delayed the Subaru by 30 seconds, dropping him to 3rd behind Habich and Damso. Despite the local constabulary wanting to pull the car off the road, Keen managed to get it back to service. It was a race against time for the service crew to repair the rear suspension in the allotted time. This is where the degree of panic and the crew's professionalism really counts, and every second counts in this type of situation.
A lot of unnecessary bad luck so early. What happened?
Yeah, sorry, we came through like trees on the right-hand side and a fence on the left, and we hit a jump, which put the car right in the air. And as it turned in the air and landed on the left front wheel, which is all okay. But when the rear wheel came down, the wheel snapped off, which put the car totally sideways and facing into the trees. So we thought we were going to go over, but luckily the car straightened. I put power on it, straightened, but that was like 10 k's from the end of the stage. So I had to drive on 3 wheels, and the wheel just snapped off clean, the whole wheel, the brake, everything. So we're fixing that quickly, and hopefully we can continue. We lost about 1.5 minutes, which is a lot.
Unfortunately for Keen, the crew missed the cut-off time by just 3 minutes. They were time barred and their event was over. With 2 retirements out of 2 in the 8-round series, their title hopes were, to all intents and purposes, over. No bad luck for Damso, though, who took the stage win by just 2 seconds from Habich. Into stage 7, and Burger was now first on the road, his tactic of falling behind Keen having backfired. First, it cost him time in the Golf's dust, and now he was sweeping the road for the others anyway. He admitted to struggling with reading the road surfaces and determining the pace, and lost another 29 seconds to Damso over the 37.65 kilometer stage. He was still in third place, but was now almost a minute behind the leader. Habech was in no mood to surrender his narrow 1 second lead after stage 6 to Damso, and was pushing as hard as ever. He was now second on the road, not the ideal position he had strived to achieve at close of play the day before. Damso knew that it was time to make his move for the lead of the rally. He pulled out all the stops in vintage style to win the stage by 15 seconds from Habech. He was now 14 seconds ahead of the Golf. Lawrence was driving his heart out, but was simply not on the pace of the front runners, complaining of a lack of power from the Run-X. He will be working hard before the next event to get the car on the pace, as he lost over a minute to Damso on this stage. Nonetheless, he was in close company with Rueda, running a few seconds ahead of the Mitsubishi. Rueda was also complaining of a lack of power from his engine, the Mitsubishi well off the pace of Burger Subaru. Yet another engine rebuild will hopefully solve the problem.
Here we go.
Fekken's player has long had an aversion to water, so with no pressure following Damso Jr.'s exclusion, he took it cautiously through the splash. Even so, the car picked up moisture in the electronics and suffered a temporary misfire. Bem also took the water splash carefully, not wanting to incur any unnecessary damage to the expensive imported bodywork in his first event. Nevertheless, he had picked up his pace and set the fourth fastest stage time. Nicholas Ryan and Brian Carryhill were on the fringes of the top 10 in their Basel Subaru Impreza. They put in some sterling drives last season, but were finding it difficult to repeat these performances this year, adopting a more cautious approach. With Versace's early retirement, Wilken was under no pressure to push hard. He was, however, under orders to finish the event to get back on even terms with Versace on the points log. Along the way, he was enjoying a good battle with Trott in the Class A6 Corolla. With a healthy class lead, Trott was under no pressure to extend himself. Following his opening event disaster, he was also only concerned with getting points in the bag. Capetonians Wessel Venter and Patrick Johnson were leading Class N2 in their Shell Helix Toyota Corolla. They held a healthy lead over the next placed car and could afford to ease off the pace a little. Gary Swimmer and Peter Davison were the only Class N1 survivors in their Gary's Workshop Volkswagen City Golf. However, they were almost caught by Zulu in the Class A5 City Golf, the car bearing the scars of a harmless roll in the Pick n Pay parking lot the day before. The two Golfs graphically demonstrated the two different approaches drivers could take to a water splash. Stage 8 was a fast 20-kilometer test. Burger was back up to speed and set the second fastest time. He was reading the roads more accurately now and picked up his pace accordingly. Habech was still giving it everything he had in an attempt to close the 14-second gap Damso held before the stage. He's always spectacular to watch, but when pushing hard, it is especially enjoyable for rally fans. And of course for you folks at home. Unfortunately for the golf pair, as they negotiated this farmyard left-handed hairpin, the right rear wheel broke right off. Habich was not sure what the problem was initially, but knew that his chances of winning the rally had probably ended right there, and he was just 3.5 kilometers into the stage. Luckily, he could drive it out of the stage and get it to service. He was pushing as hard as he dared, the car fishtailing its way through the stage. He lost just 1.5 minutes to the stage winner, a spectacular performance on only 3 wheels. Damso was still going hard, but he would lose about 30 seconds in Habich's dust as he closed in on the stricken Goff and had to settle for the 10th fastest stage time. It allowed Burger to close to within just 14 seconds. Lawrence is the most successful of a family of rallyists. His older brother Eugene contests regularly in regional events and makes the odd appearance in nationals. Sister Janine Labuschagne has been a regular navigator on the national circuit, scooping last year's Class N2 title with Chris de Wit. Back on board with a Centurion-based businessman who was enjoying his best stage of the event, matching Burger's time to finish equal second overall, just 2 seconds off the winning time set by the Class A7 Volkswagen player of Fecken and Lufkovic. It was a superb effort by the latter pair and their second stage win of the event after they won the final car park stage of day 1-2. Van Dijk was still going very well in the ex-Burger car from last season, getting some very competitive stage times and running comfortably in 7th place. This was a man Cyril van der Merwe tipped for stardom a few years ago, but a lack of finance stalled his career for a while. Italian Tony Ball and Alec Harris were having their usual solid outing in their Bulwer Park service station Volkswagen player, but it came to a sudden end with gearbox failure. The car ran in Class A7 last season, but with new restrictions for A7 cars coming into effect from this year, Ball decided to upgrade the engine to A8 specifications. Mally Saville and Dion Redlinghuis were also in trouble with a puncture to the left front tyre of their Subaru Impreza.
As we started this stage, I could feel that the car was weaving on the road as though one drive shaft was broken, but it wasn't. And then as we came around the corner behind us, there was just this crack, and that was the end of. That's probably the input shaft of the gearbox is broken, or the diff or something. But anyway, we're not going anywhere except home.
The Volkswagen crew had to make another emergency suspension swap when Habicht got back to the service area. This time, however, they completed the task well within time, and Habicht could continue, albeit in 4th, some 1 minute and 20 seconds behind leader Damso. Special Stage 9 was a 14.23 kilometer test won convincingly by a fired-up Habicht who took 10 seconds off Damso. It moved him ahead of Lawrence and closed the gap to Burger to 38 seconds. Enter Stage 10, and the top car BMW had struck trouble. The trailing arm on the rear suspension had pulled out over the rough surface. Blackman managed to temporarily repair the problem to get out of the stage, but it broke again on the way to service, and his event was over. It was the BMW's first mechanical retirement in a year. Going into the final stage 11, all eyes were on Habich as he had taken another 33 seconds off Burger in spectacular fashion in stage 10 and was now only 5 seconds behind. Damso, meanwhile, had stretched his advantage to 55 seconds over the Subaru. Burger had eased off a bit on stage 10 as the stage was being run for a second time and the road surface had become very rough with large rocks lifted out of the ground. The veteran decided that it would be pointless to chase Damso as he could only damage the car in pursuit of an unlikely win, and parts for the Subaru don't come cheaply these days. However, with Habich breathing down his neck, he now had to up his pace to hold on to his second place. He managed to do that most successfully too, taking the win by just 1 second for his third stage win of the event. Sadly, it was not to be Habich's day. A broken drive shaft thwarted his efforts to catch Burger, while a misfire also made itself felt. All he could do was to ensure that he made it to the finish line to salvage some points for all his efforts in one piece. The problems cost him almost 3 minutes, dropping him down to 5th overall. Indeed, it was character-building stuff. Damso could not afford to ease off too much, as with the stage 23 kilometers in length, anything could still happen. Rallying often carries a real sting in the tail, and a 55-second lead can disappear and evaporate very quickly. There was no such problem though, as he finished just 1 second behind Burger to take the overall win. Lawrence was now up to 3rd thanks to Habich's problems, but he could not relax too much either, as Rueda was still threateningly close. A large jump on this stage could easily have spelt his retirement, but fortunately he escaped unscathed. Rueda took 19 seconds off him though, and at the end, just a scant 8 seconds separated the pair. With his 64th win in the bag, Damso is now just 2 behind the record. Rueda was happy to salvage 4th place after a rather subdued performance. Theken was once again the Class A7 victor, and Karth sneaked into the top 10 in his Class A7 car. Trott held on to win Class A6 while Venter did the same in Class N2. And Kosenati and Zamandi and Derek Jacobs were popular Class A5 winners as Swimmer and Davidson ran out the N1 victors.
So it's about the only mistake that you made or your team was a wrong tyre choice last night. From there on it was just everything perfect.
Yeah, the forest stage seemed like we lost out a bit there. You know, we decided to go on the safe side and put dry, but it didn't really work for us. So it was one of those things, bad choice.
Other than that, the car went perfectly, and I think you could go faster whenever you needed to.
Yeah, we didn't have any problem with the car at all. It ran perfect, so can't complain.
You're allowed to look a bit more excited than that.
Nissan off-road team notches up its 4th success.